Olivia, Ava is back. I am hosting a welcome party for her tonight. Will you come? Ethan Hayes' eyes showed undisguised elation, like a child finally getting candy. I glanced at the divorce registration number I had just booked on my phone and said calmly, "No, you guys have fun." 3 years of contractual marriage. He waited for his white moonlight, and I waited for my freedom. Now, the time has come. Olivia, Ava is back. I am hosting a welcome party for her tonight. Will you come? Ethan Hayes' eyes showed undisguised elation, like a child finally getting candy. He even forgot to hide the excitement of rediscovering something lost in his tone. I glanced at the divorce registration number I had just booked on my phone and said calmly, "No, you guys have fun." A 3-year contractual marriage. He waits for his dream girl, and I wait for my freedom. My calmness seemed to surprise him a little, but only for a moment. He quickly nodded. "Okay, then I'll go over there first." Watching his back as he hurried away, I scoffed. After playing the role of a loving couple for 3 years, even I almost believed it. Speaking of which, this marriage between Ethan Hayes and me was purely a matter of being forced into it. Back in college, Ethan was a prominent figure on campus, the future heir of Hayes Industries, with a distinguished family background and outstanding appearance, but with a cold personality, and he always kept everyone at arm's length, except for Ava Chen from the art department. The first time I noticed Ava was at a public lecture. She was sitting in the front row, sunlight streaming through the window and shining on her, her skin glowing white, her profile focused and beautiful. Now, the time has come. Ethan, who usually wouldn't be interested in the lecture, was unusually sitting next to her, his eyes drifting over to her from time to time, and carefully helping her organize the scattered drafts on the table. The scene was as beautiful as a painting. It was so dazzling that even I, as an observer, felt that the relationship between these two was not simple. As Ethan's classmate and half-childhood friend, I, Meng Shinran, oh no, now Olivia Miller, naturally had a lot of gossip to share. I nudged Ethan's arm / "Hey, young Master Hayes, has the iron tree finally bloomed?" His ears turned red instantly, his eyes darted around, but he stubbornly denied it / "Don't talk nonsense." That innocent and embarrassed look only confirmed my guess. From then on, Ethan's special care for Ava became even more blatant, giving notes, reserving seats, and even Ava's lack of money to participate in the art exhibition were all secretly and anonymously funded by Ethan. The whole university knew that Ethan Hayes, the unattainable flower, had a girl named Ava Chen living in his heart. She is his white moonlight, his only exception. On the day of the graduation ceremony, everyone was busy taking pictures. I held the flowers, wanting to find Ethan, but I saw him standing alone in the corner, holding a carefully wrapped bouquet of sunflowers, looking sadly at the empty doorway. "Waiting for Ava?" I asked, walking over. He nodded silently, his voice a little low. "She didn't come today." "Where did she go?" "She went abroad." He paused and added, "Maybe she won't be back in the future." The flower language of sunflower is silent love. At that moment, looking at his lonely profile, I had already imagined a melodramatic plot of 10,000 words about unrequited love and sadness. I thought that his story with Ava had come to an end with graduation and moving far away. Who would have thought that 2 years later, the drama of fate would far exceed my imagination? My own sister and Ethan Hayes' own brother eloped on the eve of their grand engagement banquet. It left behind a complete mess and 2 family businesses on the verge of bankruptcy, Miller Corp and Hayes Industries, both in dire need of a marriage to stabilize the market. For the sake of family reputation and profit, Ethan Hayes and I, 2 people who have no romantic feelings for each other, and could even be said to be completely unrelated, were pushed to the forefront by our parents. "Olivia, Ethan, you 2 should get married." My father and Ethan's father, 2 big shots in the business world, announced this decision in a calm tone, as if they were just discussing an ordinary business deal. I was dumbfounded at that moment. Ethan reacted faster than I did. He almost immediately refused. "No, I have someone I like. I know who he's talking about." Uncle Hayes' face darkened. "Ava Chen has been abroad for 2 years without a word. How long are you going to wait? The family's reputation and future are more important than your unrealistic fantasies." Ethan pursed his lips, his face pale, but he didn't retort. I knew he had compromised. And what could I say, looking at the pleading yet pressured expressions on my parents' faces? So, Ethan Hayes and I, after a grand wedding filled with our own concerns, became husband and wife in the eyes of the law. On our wedding night, we were speechless. Finally, I broke the silence and took out the agreement I had prepared long ago from my bag. Ethan, I know you have someone in your heart. I don't want to interfere with your feelings either. I pushed the agreement in front of him. Let's make a deal. We'll play the loving couple in public, and not interfere with each other in private. The day you or I find true love, or Ava comes back, we'll get a peaceful divorce. I thought he would hesitate, or at least think about it. I didn't expect Ethan to just glance at the agreement, pick up the pen, and sign his name so readily. He didn't even mention any additional conditions. At that moment, I was even more certain that the territory in his heart had long been firmly occupied by Ava Chen. The reason he agreed so readily was simply to leave a way out for his white moonlight. Fine, to each their own. I want Miller Corp's stability. He wants to be loyal to his white moonlight. We are business partners with clear goals and happy cooperation. Married life is more harmonious than I imagined. Ethan Hayes played the role of the perfect husband, and he was impeccable. He would pick me up from work on time, even when his own company was swamped. He would remember my period and prepare hot soup and heat packs in advance. He even learned to cook, and his culinary skills went from disastrous at the beginning to comparable to a Michelin 3-star chef. Outwardly, we are a model couple envied by everyone. The elders of the Hayes and Miller families were relieved to see us living in harmony, and the cooperation between the two companies went smoothly. Only I know that all of this is fake. Ethan's thoughtfulness and consideration are just for show, to save face for both families. We live under the same roof, but sleep in separate rooms. All the good things he does for me are accompanied by a kind of politeness and alienation. The closest contact between us is probably when we go back to the old house during the holidays, holding hands in front of the elders, or occasionally helping each other tidy up their collars. I define our relationship as socialist brotherhood, pure, mutual assistance, and occasionally needing to fight side by side to deal with elders. I thought I would keep playing this role so soberly, until one time, I was drinking with my best friend Chloe Davis. Chloe is one of the few people who knows the inside story of our marriage. She looked at the messages of concern Ethan sent to my phone. Her expression complicated. Olivia, don't you think Ethan is being a little too good to you? I took a swig of wine, nonchalant. It's just acting, and he's an Oscar-worthy actor. Acting requires 3 full years, even remembering your period, what you like to eat, and what you're allergic to. Chloe poked my forehead. Wake up, sister, the way he looks at you is all wrong. What's wrong? My alcohol-numbed brain was a little slow. So gentle it's dripping with water, Chloe said exasperatedly. Don't tell me you don't feel anything at all. I was stunned for a moment, and Ethan's profile flashed in my mind as he cooked for me. The serious look in his eyes when he helped me blow dry my hair, and the helpless smile that occasionally appeared. My heart seemed to skip a beat, but I quickly suppressed that strangeness. Come on, his heart is only for his white moonlight Ava. I waved my hand. We just have a pure brotherly relationship. He is nice to me, probably because he treats me as a sister who needs to be taken care of. Brotherhood? A deep voice sounded behind me. I turned around and saw Ethan standing there at some point, holding my coat in his hand. His face was a little pale, and he looked at me with deep eyes. My heart skipped a beat, and I thought to myself that this wasn't good. Could he have heard it? Chloe quickly tried to smooth things over. Ethan, you're here. Olivia is just talking nonsense because she's drunk. Ethan ignored Chloe, walked over, took off his suit jacket and put it on me. His tone was unreadable. Let's go home. The atmosphere in the car was very oppressive on the way back. I pretended to be asleep under the influence of alcohol, not daring to look at him. He didn't say anything, but the car's speed was much slower than usual. After arriving home, he helped me to the sofa as usual and poured me a glass of warm water. I drowsily watched him busying around, and the guilt in my heart from having the brotherly affection exposed was gradually replaced by another unfamiliar emotion. Perhaps Chloe is right? Perhaps he really... No, it's impossible. I shook my head, shaking off those unrealistic thoughts. He's only this nice to me because of Ava. Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's compensation, or maybe he's just used to taking care of people. In any case, it's definitely not because he likes me. After that night, the atmosphere between Ethan and me became a little delicate. He is still very good to me, even better than before. He would bring me limited edition desserts, watch boring soap operas with me, and offer advice discreetly when I encountered difficulties at work. I began to crave this gentleness. And occasionally I would even be in a daze, feeling like we were a real couple. I started to wonder, if it weren't for Ava, if he was just taking care of me like a brother would. It seems not unacceptable. And so, amidst the brotherly affection and subtle atmosphere, we spent 3 years living peacefully together. Until that day, Ethan rushed up to me, holding his phone and looking excited. "Olivia, Ava's back. I'm holding a welcome party for her tonight. Wanna come?" In that instant, all the ambiguity, all the guesswork, all the self-deception, were stripped away and returned to their original form. The light in his eyes was something I had never seen before. It was a light that belonged solely to Ava Chen. I felt like a bucket of cold water had been thrown over me, instantly sobering me up. So, the subtle changes I thought I perceived were just my imagination. All his good qualities ultimately point to that unattainable yet ever-present ideal. "No, you guys have a good time." I suppressed the bitterness in my heart and tried to make my voice sound calm. "He's going to see the person he's been longing for. I, the collaborator, shouldn't get in the way." Watching him turn and leave, I took a deep breath, walked into my room, and opened the closet. It's time to end this farce. I started packing. Actually, there's not much to pack. For the past 3 years, I've felt like a guest in someone else's home, and most of my things are still in my own apartment. I opened the bedside table drawer, ready to take out my passport and some important documents. My fingertip touched a hard box. I took it out, and it was the divorce agreement we signed back then. There was a photo underneath it. The photo was taken in a remote mountainous area. During my sophomore year summer vacation, Ethan and I, along with some other classmates, went to the mountains to teach. On the way back, we encountered a mountain flood and were trapped in the mountains for 2 days and 2 nights. That was one of the few, through thick and thin, experiences we had together. In the photo, I was leaning against Ethan's back, asleep, with mud on my face, while Ethan vigilantly watched his surroundings, clutching a wooden stick tightly in his hand. At that time, we were just nodding acquaintances. I never thought we would be tied together in that way later. Looking at the young us in the photos, and then thinking about these 3 years of absurd marriage, I can't describe how I feel. A little sour, a little astringent, and a little empty. I carefully put away the agreement and photos and placed them in the suitcase. No matter what I feel in my heart, this divorce is inevitable. I waited for 3 days, waiting for Ethan to calm down a little from the excitement of welcoming his dream girl. Then, one morning when he was making breakfast for me as usual, I put the signed divorce papers in front of him. "Ethan, let's get divorced." The hand pouring the milk paused, and some of the milk spilled. He looked up. The expression on his face was one of shock I had never seen before, even with a hint of hurt. I must be mistaken. How could he be injured? He should be happy. Why? His voice was a little hoarse. "Isn't Ava back?" I tried to make my tone sound light. "Our agreement should be in effect. You're free." The shock on Ethan's face slowly faded, replaced by a deep emotion I couldn't understand. He looked at me silently for a long time, so long that I thought he would say something, like "thank you for your fulfillment" or something, but in the end, he just looked away, picked up a napkin and wiped the milk stains on the table, his tone returning to his usual calm. "I have an important case to travel for recently, and I'm very busy. Let's talk about the divorce when I get back." After speaking, he picked up his briefcase, didn't even look at me again, and left straight away. "Why? Is it because you're worried that the divorce will affect Hays Industries' stock price? Or do you feel indebted to me and need time to prepare compensation?" I don't understand him, but it doesn't matter. I've already made up my mind anyway. He can delay it for a while, but not forever. For the next half month, Ethan really did as he said, and was extremely busy. He was either on a business trip or working overtime at the company until late at night. We hardly saw each other. Even if we occasionally ran into each other, he was always in a hurry, avoiding my gaze. This deliberate alienation only strengthened my determination to divorce. Grandfather's 80th birthday arrived quickly. According to custom, we had to return to the old house to celebrate. For an occasion like this, we, this model couple, naturally can't be absent. On the day of the birthday banquet, guests gathered from all directions, and the atmosphere was exceptionally lively. Ethan, however, was late. He didn't arrive, travel-worn, with a hint of alcohol on him, until the dinner was about to begin. He walked over to me and whispered, "Sorry, there's a last-minute engagement." I nodded and said nothing. During the dinner, the elders' conversation inevitably turned to us. Olivia, Ethan, you've been married for 3 years now, shouldn't you be thinking about having a child? A respected great-uncle asked with a smile. The hand holding my wine glass stiffened, and I didn't know how to answer. Ethan naturally took over the conversation. Great-uncle, we're not in a hurry. We want to enjoy a few more years of just the two of us. His tone was relaxed and natural, as if we were truly a loving couple who didn't want children to disturb us for the time being. I looked at his perfect profile, but my heart was ice cold. A world for two? A world for just him and Ava? After the birthday banquet, according to the old house's rules, the younger generation had to stay overnight. Ethan and I were assigned to the same bedroom. This is the first time in 3 years, apart from that nominal cohabitation on our wedding night, that we have to spend the night in the same space. The room was very large and decorated in a classic style, but even the largest space could not dilute the awkwardness in the air. Ethan went to wash up first. I stood by the window, looking at the silent courtyard outside, feeling extremely irritable. The divorce agreement is still lying in my bag, but he is still playing the affectionate husband in front of the elders. It's ironic that we're now forced to share a room. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped. Ethan came out in a bathrobe, his hair wet, droplets of water sliding down his well-defined chin and disappearing into the honey-colored skin exposed by the open V-neck of his bathrobe. He didn't look at me, walked straight to the other side of the bed, lifted the blanket and lay down with his back to me. The whole process was smooth and natural, as if we had shared a bed like this for countless nights. I dawdled through my washing up, and when I came out, he seemed to be already asleep, breathing evenly. Only a dim wall lamp was on in the room. I tiptoed to the bed, lay down on my side, with a clear demarcation like the Chuhan border between us. Even though there was a distance between us, I could still clearly feel the heat radiating from him, and that faint, familiar scent of shower gel, mixed with the subtle scent of alcohol on him. I tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep no matter what. My mind was filled with images, him shielding me from alcohol at the banquet, the inexplicable look in his eyes when he signed the divorce agreement, and his deliberate avoidance of me for the past 2 weeks. And just now, that scene of him coming out of the shower. I have to admit, Ethan Hayes' appearance is indeed top-notch, a body that has been working out for years, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. Even wearing a loose bathrobe, you can see smooth muscle lines. I turned sideways, secretly looking at his back in the dim light. He seemed to move slightly. I quickly closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep, but my heart beat uncontrollably faster. After a long while, when I didn't hear any movement, I cautiously opened a slit in my eyes. He was still facing away from me, seemingly sound asleep, fueled by alcohol and suppressed emotions. A crazy idea suddenly popped into my head. I wanted to see if he really had absolutely no feelings for me, even if it's just a little bit. Let's just say it's the last test before saying goodbye. I held my breath and crept towards him little by little, like a thief, closer and closer, so close that I could smell the fresh fragrance of shampoo in his hair. I propped myself up and looked down at his sleeping profile. In the light, his eyelashes were long and thick, casting a small shadow under his eyelids. Her lips were very thin, and slightly pursed at this moment. Impulsively, I lowered my head, wanting to steal a touch on his lips. Just as my lips were about to touch his, he suddenly opened his eyes. Those eyes, which usually held aloofness or calmness, appeared particularly deep in the dim light, with turbulent waves I couldn't understand surging within them. I was scared out of my wits and instinctively tried to shrink back, but it was too late. His arm was as fast as lightning, and he grabbed the back of my head. The force was so great that I couldn't move. Olivia. His voice was terribly hoarse, with a heavy smell of alcohol and a suppressed emotion to the extreme. What are you doing? My mind went blank, and I stammered, unable to speak. The next second, the world spun. He turned over and pinned me underneath him. His face was so close, his warm breath spraying on my face, completely enveloping me with an aggressive masculine aura. I could clearly see the flames burning in his eyes. No longer calmness, but the edge of losing control. A stolen kiss? He curled his lips, but his smile was cold and dangerous. Who gave you the guts? Before I could react, his burning lips pressed down hard on mine. It wasn't a gentle kiss, but a gnawing with a punishing meaning, fierce and savage, as if to devour me completely. I was stunned. This was completely beyond my expectations. Shouldn't he have pushed me away, or questioned me with disgust? Why is this happening? His kiss was forceful and irresistible, prying open my teeth and capturing my territory. The smell of alcohol mixed with his unique scent rushed into my nostrils, making me dizzy. I struggled to push him away, but my hands were easily caught by him and pinned above my head. The kiss lasted a long time, so long that I almost suffocated, until he finally released me, forehead to forehead, breathing heavily. The only sound left in the room was our rapid breathing. I stared at his face so close to mine, my mind a mess. The fire in his eyes hadn't died down, and he stared at me with a complex expression, containing anger, desire, and even a hint of pain. Ethan. I managed to utter a syllable, but my voice was so hoarse it was unrecognizable. He didn't speak, just gave me a deep look, then suddenly rolled off me, back to his side of the bed, turning his back to me again. The room returned to a deathly silence, but I knew that something had completely spiraled out of control. That night, I didn't sleep at all. The next morning, I almost fled the old house. I didn't dare to look at Ethan, and even more, I didn't dare to recall that out-of-control kiss from last night. That's not the Ethan Hayes I know. How could that calm, collected man who always held Ava Chen in his heart treat me like that? Was it the alcohol, or revenge after my provocation? I dare not think too deeply about it. I avoided him for a whole week. He called, but I didn't answer. He sent messages, but I didn't reply. I even took leave from work and holed up in my own small apartment, trying to clear that chaotic night from my mind. But the more I try to forget, the clearer the feeling of that kiss becomes. His burning lips, his rapid breathing, and the complex and indecipherable emotions in his eyes. That evening, the doorbell rang. I thought it was the delivery, so I opened the door without looking at the caller ID. Standing at the door was none other than Ethan Hayes. He was wearing casual clothes and carrying a thermos, looking travel-worn with faint dark circles under his eyes. "Why are you here?" I subconsciously wanted to close the door, but he held the door with his hand, with astonishing strength. "Olivia, let's talk." His voice was a little tired, but his eyes were persistent. "There's nothing to talk about." I turned my face away. "When will you sign the divorce agreement?" He didn't answer my question, but just handed over the insulated lunchbox. "Your stomach is not good. Don't always eat takeout. I made the corn and pork rib soup you like." I looked at the familiar insulated lunchbox, and my heart was filled with mixed feelings. He's always like this, drawing a line between us emotionally while taking care of me in every possible way in life. This contradictory behavior makes me even more confused. I don't need it. I refused with a cold face. "Olivia," he sighed, his tone softening, "don't hide from me, okay?" That night, I lost control. "I'm sorry." Sorry? Did he think a simple sorry could erase that kiss? Could it explain his abnormal behavior? The anger in my heart flared up instantly. "Ethan Hayes, what exactly do you want?" I glared at him, waiting for your dream girl on one hand, and provoking me on the other. "What do you take me for? A backup? Or a tool to relieve loneliness?" He seemed surprised that I was being so blunt, and he paused for a moment, his brow furrowing. Didn't? I sneered. "Then why did you kiss me last night? Don't tell me you were drunk." He was silent, looking at me with a complicated expression. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something. Just then, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. The urgent ringing broke the tense atmosphere between us. Ethan took out his phone and glanced at it, his face changing instantly. He became nervous, even with a hint of panic. He answered the phone almost immediately, his tone urgent. "Ava? What's wrong?" "What? The child has a fever? Is it serious?" "Don't worry, I'll be right there." "Ava?" My brain buzzed as if something had hit me hard. Ava Chen has a child? And the child is sick, and the first person she calls for help is Ethan? Ethan hung up the phone and looked at me with apology and anxiety /. "Olivia, I'm sorry. Ava has an emergency. I have to go there immediately. Remember to drink the soup. I'll be back later." "Ethan," I interrupted him, my voice as cold as ice. "Is that child yours?" The anxiety on Ethan's face instantly froze, replaced by shock and disbelief. He looked at me, his lips trembling, as if he wanted to explain something, but I didn't want to listen anymore. "So that's how it is. No wonder he wouldn't get a divorce. No wonder he was so nice to me. No wonder he was so distracted the moment Ava came back. So that's how it is. They even have children. What am I? A fool who is kept in the dark, cooperates with them in their performance, and makes it easier for them to carry out their secret plans?" Immense humiliation and anger instantly overwhelmed me. I looked at the man in front of me, my husband in name, the man I almost fell for, and felt utterly disgusted. Get out. I squeezed out a word from between my teeth, using all my strength, and slammed the door shut with a bang. Ethan's anxious knocking and shouting came from outside the door. Olivia, let me explain. It's not what you think. Olivia, open the door. I leaned against the door, my body trembling uncontrollably, but not a single tear came out. My heart has grown completely cold. I knew he was stalling. Explanation? What's left to explain? The facts are right in front of my eyes. I took out my phone, my fingers trembling, and opened the divorce appointment page again. This time, I didn't hesitate at all. Appointment successful. Next Wednesday, 9 a.m. See you at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Ethan Hayes. I sent Ethan a message with just the time and location. Then, I turned off my phone and collapsed heavily onto the sofa. This ridiculous marriage is finally coming to an end. I thought I would feel relieved, but instead my heart felt empty, as if a piece of it had been carved out. In the days that followed, Ethan didn't come looking for me again. No calls, no messages. It was as if he had completely disappeared from my world. This clean break is better for everyone. On the day we agreed to get divorced, I arrived at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau half an hour early. The weather was good, sunny and bright. Ironically, I was going to end my marriage on this wonderful day. 9 o'clock arrived. Ethan Hayes didn't show up. 9:10. He still hasn't come. I took out my phone, wanting to call him, but found that the phone had long since run out of power and automatically shut down. I stood in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, waiting like an idiot. People coming and going to get their certificates sized me up with curiosity. The sun shone on me, but I couldn't feel a trace of warmth, only a coldness and embarrassment that penetrated to the bone. Is he unwilling to give me even this last bit of decency? Or is he busy taking care of his and Ava's child, completely forgetting about the divorce? Disappointment and anger intertwined in my heart, almost swallowing me whole. Just as I was about to give up and turn to leave, a black Bentley rushed over at an almost frantic speed, screeching to a halt in front of me. The car door opened, and Ethan Hayes rushed out of the car. His face was pale, his hair disheveled, and his eyes were bloodshot. His suit jacket was wrinkled, his tie was crooked, and he reeked of alcohol. He looked terrible, as if he had just gone through a catastrophe. He rushed up to me, grabbed my arm with frightening force, his voice hoarse, with the confusion of a hangover and a hint of imperceptible panic. Olivia, I'm sorry, He hadn't finished speaking when he swayed and fell straight towards me. A strong smell of alcohol hit me. I subconsciously supported him. He was very tall, and the weight of his body almost crushed me. Ethan? Ethan! I patted his face, but he didn't respond at all, as if he was dead drunk. Looking at his drunken state, the anger in my heart inexplicably dissipated for the most part, replaced by an indescribable irritability and worry. I must be crazy. It's come to this, and I'm still worried about him? I struggled to help him into the back seat of the car and started the engine. Take him back to our home that exists in name only? No, I don't want to set foot in that place again. Take him back to the Hayes mansion? That's even worse. I don't want the elders to see him like this. After thinking about it, I sent him to a nearby hotel. I got him into bed and covered him with a blanket. Looking at his sleeping profile, his brow was furrowed, and he seemed very uneasy even in his sleep. I hesitated for a moment, but still went to the bathroom, wrung out a hot towel, and gently wiped his face. He seemed to sense something, unconsciously nuzzled the palm of my hand, and mumbled something indistinctly. I moved closer to hear him clearly. He was muttering, "Slippers. No slippers for me." Slippers? I remember the day he came to my apartment to find me, and I shut him out. That day, it seems like he was wearing leather shoes. So, is he upset that I didn't prepare slippers for him? This thought shocked me. He's so drunk, not thinking about his dream girl Ava, not thinking about his children, but mumbling about a pair of slippers? What is this supposed to be? I shook my head, throwing out these messy thoughts. Maybe it's just drunken talk, nothing special. I tucked him in and turned to leave, but my wrist was suddenly grabbed. I turned back to meet his eyes, which had opened at some point. The drunkenness had vanished from those eyes, leaving only a deep, unfathomable clarity and pain. "Olivia," he said, his voice hoarse, with a hint of pleading, "don't go, don't leave me." My heart, for some reason, clenched, but I quickly regained my composure. "Ethan Hayes, you're awake. That's perfect." I shook off his hand, My tone icy. The divorce registration missed the time. I've rescheduled it. Next Friday. Same time and place. I hope you can be on time this time. After speaking, I didn't look at him anymore and quickly left the hotel room. I was afraid that if I stayed for even a second longer, the determination I had worked so hard to build would collapse. Back in my apartment, I threw myself into the bathtub, trying to wash away the exhaustion and confusion with hot water. Ethan's drunken state, and his phrase "don't leave me," haunted my mind like a curse, and that inexplicable word, slippers. It's all too abnormal. Could it be? Is there really some misunderstanding? No, it's impossible. Ava's phone call, his nervous attitude, and that child. These are all things I heard and saw with my own ears and eyes. I can't deceive myself anymore. The next day, I received a call from Ethan. His voice sounded tired, but his tone was unusually calm. "Olivia, can we meet? Before you make your final decision." I was silent for a moment. "What do you want to say?" "I want to explain clearly." His voice held a hint of pleading. "About Ava. About the child. About everything." "Explain? What's the point of explaining now?" But that tiny, faint, and unwillingly dying thought in my heart began to stir again. Perhaps I should give him a chance to explain? At least, let me give up completely. "Okay," I agreed. "You decide the time and place." We arranged to meet at the cafe where we first signed our divorce agreement. Still the same window seat. The sunlight streamed in through the glass window, warm and pleasant. Ethan arrived before me. He looked much better than yesterday, although there was still some fatigue under his eyes. He had at least returned to his usual well-dressed appearance. It's just that his face is still a little pale. There was a cup of black coffee in front of him, untouched. I sat down across from him and got straight to the point. "Tell me, what do you want to explain?" Ethan took a deep breath, raised his eyes to look at me. His eyes filled with a seriousness and vulnerability I had never seen before. "Olivia, first of all, I want to apologize for losing control at the old house that night. Also, I was very rude at your apartment door that day, and I scared you. I'm sorry. Secondly," he paused, his voice a little strained, "about Ava and that child." My heart leaped to my throat instantly. "Ava did come back, and she does have a child." He looked at me and said, word by word, "But that child is not mine." "Not his? Whose is it then?" "It /s her husband /s." Ethan's tone was very calm. "Ava came back this time with her husband and child." "Husband? Ava married?" The news hit me like a bomb going off in my head. "When did she get married?" I blurted out. "It was about a year ago," Ethan said. "Her husband is called Ryan Miller, a Chinese American, and also my friend." "Ryan Miller. That name sounds familiar. I think he's a pretty famous investor on Wall Street." "So," I said, trying to process this information, "she called you that day because her child was sick?" "Yes." Ethan nodded. "Ryan was away on a business trip at the time and couldn't get back right away. Ava was alone with the child in the hotel, and the child suddenly had a high fever. She was very flustered and called me for help. I was too anxious at the time and didn't explain it clearly to you, which caused you to misunderstand. So that's how it is. The white moonlight I always thought of has long been married to someone else. The child I've always been hung up on has nothing to do with him either. Then what about my self-torture, carefulness for the past 3 years, and the recent anger and coldness? A huge misunderstanding?" I looked at Ethan. My mood was complicated beyond words. Then, I hesitated and asked the question that had been lingering in my mind. "How do you feel about Ava?" "My feelings for her are just the concern of a friend, and the care entrusted by Ryan." Ethan interrupted me, his eyes extremely sincere. "I did have a crush on her in college, but it was just a crush. After she went abroad, we rarely contacted each other. Later, when I learned that she was married, I completely let go." "Then why?" I still didn't understand. "Why did you sign the agreement so readily back then? Why have you been so good to me for the past 3 years, yet always kept your distance? Why were you so abnormal after I filed for divorce?" Ethan looked at me, complex emotions turning in his eyes. "Regret, pain, and affection?" "Olivia," he said, his voice low and hoarse, with a desperate courage, "because from beginning to end, the only person I've ever loved is you." Boom. My brain completely crashed. What did he say? He likes me? How is that possible? What did you say? I wondered if I had misheard. I said, "I like you, Olivia Miller." Ethan looked into my eyes and repeated with utmost seriousness, "Not as a friend, not as a sister, but as a man likes a woman. Since when? I felt my voice trembling. It's been a long time. His eyes drifted to the window, as if lost in memories. Maybe. It started with that time we volunteered to teach in the mountains. Seeing you so brave, so kind, clearly scared yourself but still thinking about taking care of others. I just felt that you were different from other girls. Teaching in mountainous areas? Isn't that something from many years ago? Then why didn't you say anything? He smiled wryly. Because I knew that you always treated me as a friend, and even a little afraid of me. Moreover, considering the relationship between our two families, plus my reputation at the time for secretly having a crush on Ava I didn't dare to say it, afraid that if I did, we wouldn't even be friends anymore. That marriage alliance was unexpected for me, and also a secret delight. He laughed self-deprecatingly. I know it was unfair to you, but at the time I really, selfishly hoped that I could use this method to keep you by my side. When you signed that agreement, you said I'll get divorced when I find true love, and my heart broke, but I still signed it because I was afraid you wouldn't sign it, afraid you would sever even this last connection. For these past 3 years, me being good to you wasn't an act. I genuinely wanted to be good to you, but I didn't dare get too close, afraid you'd discover my feelings, afraid of putting pressure on you. Afraid you'd think I was using marriage to hold you hostage. When I heard you say we had a brotherly bond, I was really angry and sad, but what could I do? It was me who didn't dare to break through that paper window. That day at the old house, I had too much to drink, plus you were so close, I couldn't control myself. I know I scared you, and I really regret it. You filed for divorce, and I panicked. I thought you were finally tired of this charade, or that you had found someone you truly loved. I didn't dare to face it, so I kept dragging it on. It wasn't until you mentioned the children that day that I realized there was such a huge misunderstanding between us. Ethan said a lot in one breath, as if he were pouring out secrets that had been pent up for many years. Every word he said was like a pebble thrown into the already chaotic lake of my heart, stirring up ripples. So, the reason he was good to me wasn't out of guilt or compensation, but because he genuinely liked me. So, the reason he signed the agreement so readily wasn't for his ideal woman, but because he was afraid of losing me. So, the reason he was displeased when he heard brotherly love wasn't acting, but because he genuinely cared. So, that out-of-control kiss wasn't revenge, but an uncontrollable urge. It turns out that all his anomalies and contradictions were traceable. The truth is out. The one-man show I always thought it was turned out to be a tacit understanding and a twist of fate between two people. A huge shock and an indescribable emotion surged into my heart, and my eyes instantly turned red. It's not feeling wronged, it's not sadness, but a sense of relief and emotion after the dust has settled. So, I looked at him, my voice choked with sobs. You never liked Ava? I had some feelings for her, but that wasn't like, let alone love. Ethan reached out and carefully took my hand. Olivia, I admit I was a jerk in the past, making you suffer so much and misunderstanding for so long, but please believe me, from the wedding day, when I saw you walking towards me in your wedding dress, I was sure that the only person I want in my life is you. His hand was warm, his palm a little damp. He seemed very nervous. I didn't pull my hand back. The cafe played soothing music, and the sun was just right. Looking at the man in front of me, the man I've known for so many years but only seemed to truly know today, my heart was filled with mixed feelings. Then, I sniffed and asked the last question. Divorce. Are we still getting one? Ethan gripped my hand tightly, looking at me with nervous eyes, and asked cautiously, do you still want a divorce? I looked at the apprehension and expectation in his eyes, and suddenly laughed. As I laughed, tears streamed down my face. I shook my head. Ethan was stunned, and then, a huge surprise and ecstasy instantly lit up his eyes. He suddenly stood up, walked around the table, and hugged me tightly. The force was so strong, as if he wanted to knead me into his bones. Olivia, thank you. His voice choked, repeating it again and again in my ear. Thank you. I reached out and hugged him back, feeling his strong heartbeat and the warmth of his embrace. So it turned out that after such a big detour, we almost missed each other. Luckily, we still made it in time. After that day, the relationship between Ethan and I underwent earth-shattering changes. We no longer slept in separate rooms. He moved into my bedroom, or rather, we finally had a marital room in the true sense of the word. He was still very good to me, But that goodness no longer carried the cautious probing and restraint, but was filled with an intense, almost palpable, love and possessiveness. He would be like a clingy big dog, following me every step of the way whenever he was home. When I'm reading a script, he would hug me from behind and nuzzle my neck, acting spoiled. After I fall asleep, he would repeatedly and secretly kiss my forehead and lips. Like all couples in love, we can't wait to be together every moment. Of course, we also did all the things that couples do. On the first night after confessing our feelings, everything fell into place. His kisses were gentle and cherishing, filled with the excitement and devotion of something regained. Every movement was full of tenderness and love. At that moment, I truly realized what kind of ultimate experience the perfect union of soul and body is. We decided to remarry. This time, there were no family interests, no forced helplessness, and no outward agreement but inner discord. Only the two of us, willingly and solely for each other. We quietly went to the Civil Affairs Bureau on a sunny afternoon. We got our new marriage certificate. Looking at our smiling faces closely nestled together on the red booklet, Ethan chuckled foolishly for a long time. He said it was the best decision he had ever made in his life. I think so too. Life is sometimes so wonderful. What you thought was the end of the road may just be a joke played by fate. After going around in a big circle, you will eventually return to the right person. Extra, Ethan's perspective. My name is Ethan Hayes. To outsiders, I am the heir to Hayes Industries. A golden boy, calm and collected, but only I know that I have a secret in my heart, a love I dare not speak of. That person is called Olivia Miller. I first noticed her at the freshman dance. She was wearing a simple white dress, not as elaborately dressed as the other girls, and even seemed a bit out of place, but the way she smiled, her eyes curved like crescent moons, was particularly beautiful. Later, I learned that she was the youngest daughter of Miller Corp., and our families were family friends, but I didn't dare to approach her. Although our family and the Miller family had business dealings, our relationship couldn't be considered close. Moreover, she seemed a little afraid of me. Every time she sees me, she acts like a mouse seeing a cat, her eyes darting away. It wasn't until that rural teaching stint during my sophomore year that was the first time I had such close contact with her. The flash flood came very suddenly, and we were trapped in the mountains. Food and water were limited, the nights were cold and dark, and unknown beasts held nearby. Everyone was scared, including me, but Olivia was very calm. She shared her food with classmates who were physically exhausted, used the first aid kit she brought to bandage the injured, and told jokes at night to liven up the atmosphere. Clearly, she herself was shivering from the cold, her face pale. I looked at her thin back, and somewhere in my heart, it felt like something hit me hard. On the way back, she was so tired that she fell asleep leaning on my back, her breath lightly and softly sprinkled on the back of my neck, warm and gentle. At that moment, a thought suddenly popped into my head: if only I could protect her like this forever. From then on, my eyes would always unconsciously follow her, watching her chat and play with friends, watching her read seriously in the library, watching her clumsily mix colors in the studio. Every move she made tugged at my heart, but I don't dare to confess. I'm afraid of scaring her, and even more afraid of being rejected by her. At that time, Ava Chen happened to come to me often to ask questions about art history. Ava is Ryan Miller's girlfriend, and Ryan is a friend I've known since childhood. He was on exchange abroad at the time, so he asked me to take care of Ava. Gradually, rumors about Ava and me started spreading around the school. I didn't deliberately clarify things, partly because I felt it wasn't necessary, and partly because I had some selfish motives. I wanted to see Olivia's reaction. As a result, she just teased me like a real bro about an iron tree blooming. At that moment, I felt a mix of sourness and bitterness in my heart. She really only sees me as a friend. After graduation, Ava went to the United States with Ryan. I thought that was probably it for Olivia and me. Unexpectedly, 2 years later, my brother and her sister staged an elopement. The burden of a marriage between the two families fell on Olivia and me. When my father suggested we get married, my first reaction was to refuse. It's not because I'm still thinking about Ava, but because I know Olivia doesn't like me. I don't want to tie her down this way. But looking at my father's unquestionable gaze, and looking at the difficulties faced by the family business, I finally compromised. At least, this way I have a reason to stay by her side legitimately. On the wedding day, watching her walk towards me step by step in her pure white wedding dress, My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was going to jump out of my throat. At that moment, I felt like the luckiest person in the world, even though I knew she wasn't willing in her heart. On their wedding night, she took out the divorce agreement. Divorce when you find true love. My heart felt like it had been stabbed hard with a needle, but I still signed it. I told myself it was okay. As long as I could stay by her side, I could play any role. For the 3 years after the marriage, I tried to play the role of a perfect husband. I learned to take care of her, understand her preferences, and remember all her habits. Watching her gradually let down her guard against me, and even occasionally show me a look of dependence, my heart was filled with secret joy. But I don't dare to go any further. I'm afraid my greed will scare her away. I carefully maintain the facade of brotherhood between us, hoping that one day, she will truly see my feelings. Hearing her and Chloe Davis say that we have a brotherhood, I admit, I was so jealous I was going crazy. But what can I say? It's that I myself don't dare to break this relationship. A child? Until Ava returned to China. I know this is the biggest time bomb between Olivia and me. I have to confess everything to her as soon as possible. But before I could find the right moment, she took the initiative to file for divorce. I numb myself with work, afraid to go home, afraid to face her. I'm afraid to see the determination in her eyes. That uncontrolled kiss at the old house made me completely lose myself. Alcohol, coupled with her initiative to get close, ignited all the desires and jealousy I had suppressed for many years. I knew I scared her, and I regretted it immensely. When she misunderstood that the child was mine, and looked at me with that cold, disgusted look, and said that word "get out," my heart is completely broken. I tried desperately to explain, but she didn't give me a chance at all. I don't know what to do. I can only go drink. I thought, maybe if I get drunk, it won't hurt so much. Until I saw her again in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, looking at her disappointed yet stubborn eyes. I knew I couldn't run away anymore. I had to tell her the truth. When I said everything, I saw the shock, disbelief, and finally relief and tears in her eyes. When she shook her head and said she wouldn't get a divorce, I felt that all my waiting and suffering for the past 20 years was worth it. The day we re-registered our marriage, the sun was shining brightly. Looking at the smiling Olivia beside me, I feel like I have no regrets in this life. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you for ultimately choosing me. This time, I will never let go again.